I'm really happy that we're doing this kind of an activity for it. It's a little different than what we normally do, but I hope to do that this year. So any ideas that people have on what we can do for upcoming webinars, we do have some sponsors sign up for webinars here, sporadically over the next few months. But anything else we can do to really make these of interest and mostly useful, just let us know. Of course, what we're doing is the trend vision for 2024 is the overall theme for the year. Here's Terrence again. Let me pull him on. Okay, and it's the menu's changing at the speed of light. That's one of the things we'll start out with. One of my first questions is going to be around that. It's like, how fast is it changing now compared to the past? Is it going to slow down this year? So be prepared for that. This one is called the State of the Menu 2024, and it's just a deep dive discussion. So all of us are going to be able to really participate and and talk about what's happening right now. And again, anybody who's in attendance on this, feel free, if you want to come on and say something, just let us know and we'll bring you on as a participant as well. And if you want to just ask a question, then put it in chat and we'll be able to pick it up from there. But let's see, starting, we've got, Dean Gialamas, you guys know him from McCormick, Alex Sadowski from Twin Peaks, Melanie Oxer, who Mike said has a lot of cookie dough in her, camera right now, but it looks good now, Melanie. So, and then we've got Jason Knoll, from Another Broken Egg, Karen Harris from Papa Murphy's, Steve Sturm, who's with Firebirds. By the way, I saw some article today, Steve, not to take a break for a second from the introductions, but I saw an article today and it showed like a voting booth and it had this red logo behind it that said Firebirds. It was obviously the logo of the school, right? But I was cracking up laughing. It's like, well, that's not your logo.
Yeah.
But it was funny. I think it was on the New York Times or something. But anyway, it just happened to be, they were in a gymnasium, right?
Right.
So Dave Woolley, formerly of Buffalo Wild Wings, and Dave's got a lot of things going on right now. And Terrence Tukes from Darden, who is the corporate chef with Olive Garden. So anyway, and we've got some others that are going to be joining us as we go along as well. So and let's get started here. I mean, I think the first question, an overall question I want to do is, how do you feel about just overall business for this year? I mean, are you a little apprehensive? Do you look at things and say it's going to be a good year? I mean, and what are those challenges too? Do you feel like the election plays a role in it? Do you feel just like the economy or confidence or any of that? So anybody who wants to start, just chime in.
So I'll kick it off to be the doom and gloom guy, unfortunately, right? And I want to preface this by I don't think that this is what necessarily we are all feeling, but it's everything that our guests are feeling, right? Consumer confidence is really low, lowest it's been since 2007, 2008, the financial crash. Credit card debt, all-time high. I got all this information from BBI, Black Box Intelligence. Highest it's been in 20 plus years. If you're the 40 and under crowd, it's the highest it's been in 40 years. Almost 14.5% of their available credit. That did dip when we had those stimulus checks, PPP money, that sort of thing. People used it to pay off their credit cards. Since then, with the rise in inflation, they've just been putting everything on their cards to keep kind of their lifestyle going. Restaurant prices, I know that we all live this every day, right? The interesting part is a couple of months ago, it was still cheaper to dine out than go to the grocery store. That is not the case anymore, especially just as a message for all of our vendors, right? Just let you know where it's at. We've all taken price. And I would say what I'll tell you in a little bit is we've probably taken too much price. Traffic is waning at restaurants everywhere around the country, except for QSR and kind of that fast casual. Those are kind of the bright spots. They're up almost about 12% industry-wide. When you look at full service, which really is a sore spot, that's about -6% in traffic and in sales. The big one is fine dining. So they got hit really, really hard. PPA for everybody across the industry is up because we all took price. What that means is comp traffic is down. 1.3% for comp sales, 3% for comp traffic. Kind of proves that lower PPA equals better traffic. It's that trade down. I know that was a lot pretty quick, but that kind of gives you the nuts and bolts
what we
about
wanted,
what's
kind of
happening right now.
Yeah, state of the industry, if you will. And no,
Yeah,
appreciate
my gut says none of this is going to go long term, right? I think people are apprehensive about the election, just the unknown. We'll get through November just like we always do, and no matter which way it goes, and we'll be right back into running restaurants, taking care of people, and feeding them. That's never going to go away.
Cool. Who else wants to chime in on that?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think I agree with Alex. I think there's a lot going on in the world that will get us through to November. And then after that, it should sort of level out. But that's a long 9 months from now or 8 months from now to sort of survive through it. The folks that even just come, Pop Murphy's would be probably labeled as somewhere between fast casual and quick serve. But even at that, we get compared to grocery stores a lot. And so trying to just maintain that pricing and yet still be a better alternative than the grocery store has always been a challenge for us. But I think we'll see some up and downs throughout the rest of the year. And then once we have a new president, whoever that is, we'll start to sort of level out again.
For Firebirds, we're pretty confident. Obviously, we got a few headwinds, like you said, election. You also this year you have the flip on Olympics, so summer might be a little bit hinky. But we're feeling pretty good, and ultimately, when we look at some sales traffic headwinds, we look inside the four walls and think, what can we do from a guest standpoint to make sure that every guest leaves unbelievably satisfied and go above and beyond what their expectations. When we do that and do a good job with it, we always pick up market share and we actually grow our traffic. So even though there's some headwinds, we think that we can win by focusing on that guest experience. And then as far as, I don't know if we're going to get into this later, but commodity wise, the one thing that's really keeping me up at night, and again, it's where we're positioned, is the beef industry in general for the states. It's at the lowest point in a very long time. And it's not something that you can turn on a dime. You're talking, it is 24 to 30 months before they bring it back. So internationally, there's going to be continued pressure in the beef market, which is not going to enable us to slow down on some of the pricing things if we don't do something about it.
Do you think too some of the predictions and feelings that everybody has right now has to do with, always the January, February is kind of iffy, I would say, in most markets, maybe not in some markets, but so we're coming out of that and going into spring. Do you think that we're going to actually fare a little better as we get into these springtime months?
I do think that there's always a hangover after Christmas. Everybody's credit card bills come due, so everybody feels a little bit pessimistic. You combine that with an election year and all the negativity with Ukraine and a lot of the other things. There's a lot of negativity out there. I do think that typically when spring comes around, people's spirits to kind of peak up. The other negative thing is there was worse weather this year around the country in Q1 January than there was last year. So we are all going, if you're domestic, we're having, depending where your stores are, but where we were definitely much worse than the previous year in comps. And it was almost all weather related.
In addition to what everyone is saying, for us, it's really about staying disciplined. I saw a question about tactics, and we feel that, tactics really is a short-term measure. We're not going to get in the business of couponing. We're going to stay true to our tenants with the hopes, that the guests weather this storm and they know they can find value and they find consistency in our brand. And so that's how we kind of staying ahead of the fray right now, just remaining disciplined.
Oh, that's cool. That makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
So let me ask this, like, as far as like new menu additions for the year, kind of general consensus, are you guys looking at making more new menu changes or trying to stay more consistent? Terrence, you kind of answered that a little bit now, to try to stay, true to form as where you are.
Menu optimization is something like we are really getting down and dirty. We added so many new menu items during COVID and we didn't really take a whole lot off. So we're just taking a look at SKU rationalization, simplification, all of those things. And then especially looking forward, we're still planning to have a high volume of LTOs like we've had in the past. However, cocoa powder and chocolate. We're very, very worried about that. Guess what? Insomnia Cookies has like 90% of our products have cocoa powder or chocolate. So that is something that's definitely going to change towards the end of the year. Just the LTOs that we have planned, we're definitely rethinking the ones that had a lot of cocoa and chocolate in them. But we're still going to do them. We're still going to do LTOs. We still want to have, we know that the LTOs and the new news is what drives social engagement around our brand. So we're just going to keep doing it. But at the same time, we've really got to pay attention to our COGS and our margins and our pricing strategies. So it's kind of all over the board. I know that kind of covers a lot of different things, but I'm a little different than full service restaurants. We sell cookies and ice cream, warm cookies and ice cream. So we don't have a whole lot of, place to really cut those costs, except in those ingredients and lots of other places. Waste, certainly something for us as well. But that was a lot. Sorry.
Over here at Darden and Olive Garden, of course, we've been known for the LTOs and promotions, and we've done a lot of optimization as well. And we definitely assured down our menu during COVID. And so we're not saying no. We will say that we will do another LTO, but only if it elevates brand equity. If it's not at a deep discount, and if it's simple to execute for our team, so they can be very consistent with it. And so the only one that we've launched in the last 2 years is Never Ending Possible. It's our workhorse. It does extremely well for us. It does extremely well for the brand and business. And so we just haven't seen fit to create another promotion. I mean, we do a lot of innovation around it. And like Melanie, we are doing a whole lot of optimization. We're actually investing money that we do have back into the core food to drive more value and abundance and craveability. So yeah, those are the three pillars for me with regards to how we think about creating another LTO or promotion.
So I look forward to this year and the next couple of years to this group to help with some guidance on reading through all of the information that's out there and deciding what makes the most sense. And there's so much craziness going on out there. What do you react to, and how do you get the investors to calm down and focus? And I think the investors need to take a reset more than anybody, and the people that are writing the checks. I mean, we got spoiled for the couple of years where we were just off the charts in traffic and growth, and it was all kind of fictitious. But I mean, so you see where in Chicago and California they're changing the minimum wage, right? So even servers now have to get minimum wage because the tip credit's going away. And then I read the craziest thing that Wendy's is going to start doing surge pricing, right? And so for people like me, I'm like, well, if you're the first on board, it's probably dangerous, right? But if you don't pay attention and if you don't jump on board to something like that, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. We do 60% of our business on the weekend, on just Saturday and Sunday. So, we did surge pricing there. Maybe we could drive more traffic on the weekdays, or who knows, maybe we drive traffic away. To Steve's point, do what you do it well, be consistent. So yeah, I'm looking to meetings like this and this group and this organization to kind of sift through all of the noise and figure out what makes the most sense.
For us, we're approaching it two ways on the LTO, which is a little different than what we've done in the past. So we're taking it on both extremes. We're doing some LTOs that are a little more value play. They're not discounted, but they're basically packaging what we do in so it feels like it's a value item. But then we're also going baller style. So we have something over the top, a half lobster tail, tempura fried on top of a steak. That's a stretch item, and we're finding that attracts, because we end up, because we're sort of in the middle between really upscale and then the casual dining. So we get people trading up for our value play, and we get people from Del Frisco's and some of the higher end trading down to us. So it really appeals on both ends. And by doing that, it doesn't really hurt our check average any. It actually elevates it a little bit. So we've had some success with going that route, attacking it both ways.
I want to tell Jason, I could not agree more with you on telling investors to just calm down and stop working themselves up into a fervor about how the whole world is about to end. It's not going anywhere. We don't even need to open up those playbooks yet, right, Steve? Right? We all got them, but I don't want to touch that book.
No, they're pulling imaginary levers right now. They're pulling everything.
Yeah.
And really, I think you see it even with the guests, right? They want to come in. They want to eat. It's just those people are going, I can't do it 2 times a week. I got to go down to 1, right? And to Steve's point, I think that means that really we all need to buckle down. Melanie kind of touched on it too. It's just, we need to be better. Like, we got to cook better, make better food, hot, fresh, give it to them. They're
Well,
paying
they got to
for it. Let's make
understand
it worth it.
value. Yeah, the value equation isn't about price. It's about what they felt they got for what they spent. And you got to make sure when their guest leaves that they're absolutely like, that was worth every penny and more. If you can do that, you're going to win.
Yeah, there's less and
Exactly.
less room for error or guest tolerance of error these days, right? Because they
For sure.
someplace else to go, and so we have to be even better than we have been.
Playing little devil's advocate here, I mean, this could be an opportunity for really creative innovation as well, meaning really cool and unique items that drive business to you. Things that I'm seeing a lot of the same as far as innovation goes. I've been doing a lot of research as of late, specifically in casual and fast casual brands, and I'm seeing a lot of like menu line extensions or flavor extensions on the same thing. And it could be an opportunity, and I'm just poking a hole here. Could be an opportunity to do really cool and unique things to help kind of take yourself over the top and drive a little business in.
One of the things I've seen in the independent scene, which is really kind of surprising to me, is I've seen these portions grow, which kind of surprises me because, I think I don't know, I want to eat healthier and I'm like walking away from these places. Of course, we're going to a lot of restaurants in a day, but even with that being said, I look at these portions and go, there's no way I can finish that. Of course, with that came a large increase in price, but I'm kind of surprised by that, to be honest with you. I mean, I kind of felt like on the independent side, if I was sitting, behind the door there, I'd probably be like shrinking it a little bit and trying to keep the price down a little bit to try to encourage more traffic. But it's not what I'm seeing. Dean, you're out eating a lot too. Do you have anything to say on that? Because you're dining around when you travel around the country.
Yeah, I've noticed the same thing where the portions, especially on independent restaurants, the portions are bigger. From a company standpoint, you talk about adding new menu items. We're launching 15 different innovative products for this year. And to David's point, some of them are extensions off the brand, but there's a lot of unique new items that are unique that not in the market right now. So hoping to, create some ideation and some innovation and stuff like that.
One of the things that's, recently hit our radar is, I don't know if you guys have seen all these articles on Ozempic and some of these other weight loss injections that people, that is growing like leaps and bounds. And what a lot of what the groundswell we're hearing about is smaller portions, because when you're on those medications, you can't eat that big. So really considering having at least something in each of your menu categories that is both portioned, but I mean, the price for a lot of people are less. I mean, that's some of it, but it's more about the right portion for their current, eating needs too. So that's something that we're looking really hard at.
That's a hard one to sell. Totally get it, right?
Yeah.
Why you're
Right,
seeing it, Kevin.
Price point.
Exactly. It's how do you justify the 5 or 10% price increase you just took and shrink a portion at the same time?
Yeah, it has to be new.
That's a hard pill.
It's got to be new innovation. It can't be you can't kill
Absolutely.
something you have out on the menu. Yeah,
Absolutely, right? But I mean, that's a bad hill to be on. Promise you that.
you know it.
Related question.
When I was looking at Sarah Maki in the chat room, and she was asking, are we doing anything to increase patron visits or give them a sense of value? And one thing that we've done is we've just taken a hard look at ourselves and asked ourselves some honest questions and asked some experts as well. There are experts out there that can tell you where it is you're bleeding, right? And so we've identified particular day parts, and not only from a category standpoint, but from a service standpoint, what can we do to attract a certain day part, a certain weekday part, to bring those people in to fill that void? Again, 60-70% of our volume on the weekends. How do we get them on the weekdays? And what do we need to do? And we know that we need to be faster. And how do we get to be faster? And then it comes to what came first, the chicken or the egg. Do you have the service there to improve the speed? or the kitchen staff, or do you wait till the marketers drive the people in, and then you can support the extra people and the extra staff to give them that experience? So yeah, I don't know what the solution for what's great and what's missing, doing the old SWOT analysis.
Yeah, how do you feel about price increases, on raw materials and other, products you guys are purchasing through the year? Do you see it kind of softening now with the economy, and maybe things will go down a little bit in price or not?
You have to be a lot more strategic, but the reality is the prices increases that we're needing to take has very little to do with your COGS. It almost has everything to do with cost of labor, at least for us. And so, we're in several of the states we're in is, our tip credit is $10, $12 an hour for servers. And I'm sure it's even worse for like Keith, you out in Washington and California.
I think the vendors too definitely hear this all the time. Dean's got to be having much more experts on kind of commodities across the entire globe compared to us, right? But everything I've heard is the commodity stuff, you're actually going to go down for the most part, but they're worried about diesel, right? So that unrest in Ukraine and kind of those energy prices on a global scale, that could wipe out any of the drop of everything else. If diesel goes up 5%, we're all toast,
Well, anything wheat related, feed and any of that is going to stay elevated because of Ukraine, because a significant amount of that harvest goes internationally, and it's been cut way back.
So to your point, I can tell you as an organization, we have seen decreases in commodities, but again, diesel and that stuff that you alluded to earlier has increased, but we as a company have no plans to take a price increase for 2024. Now, with that being said, I doubt we'll come down in price, but we're not going to take a price increase.
Oh, you had to say that. I'm just kidding.
No, but we need everybody to shout that from the rooftops to calm everyone down. Price isn't going up. Yes. Hold the line.
So, okay, let's switch gear a little bit here. Let's just talk about like trends. I mean, what do you see for this year? Maybe not necessarily within your operations, but what do you see becoming hotter this year? Is it a category of business? Is it, people splurging on ice cream or whatever and cookies, or, do you see anything that you think is going to be something that probably is something to jump on this year that maybe you will even adapt into your menu?
It's a tough one. I haven't really seen or identified anything for us. It's really focused on the service of the guest and then executing the food at a high level. So, big, bolder, better is sort of our mantra and has been for the last couple of years, and that's sort of what we're leaning into. But nothing specific flavor or product wise or category wise.
So us as an organization, we have data to back this up where we show it's all about heat for this year. Like over 50% of global consumers choose spicy options when they're dining out. 3 out of 5 consumers reported that they are eating spicier foods today than they were a year ago. And almost 3/4 of consumers say foods taste better when there's heat added to it. That's what we see on our end. And that kind of alludes to the innovation and the new product development that we're doing, that we're launching. It's all around heat, and it's all across all day parts too. It's not specific to one particular day part. We see it in breakfast, we see it in lunch, we see it in snacking. And from a demographic standpoint, it over-indexes, but it over-indexes extremely high between 18 and 34-year-olds. And that's based on the data and research that we've seen within our organization.
I was going to say, Dean, I think you guys have your finger on the pulse better than most, right? Because it's the global heat things too. The Vietnamese Cajun, right? The Peruvian spice for the roast chicken, which is freaking fantastic. If none of you guys have had it yet, get some. I mean, just put it on some chicken, roast it. I think you're going to see even more Indian flavors, right? Southeast Indian flavors. You're seeing some more Ethiopian and African influence too. And, I think to Dave's point, we're all creative enough to try and figure out how that works for us. Is it a seasoning? Is it a sauce? It doesn't necessarily need to be, injera on as a plate covered with all these fancy stews, but right. I love it. We all love it, but maybe that's not the best way to get to the general consumer. But something like the Vietnamese Cajun seasoning, it's a no-brainer. Sprinkle it on there and you're going to make some people really happy. We just put it in. We were doing a crawfish boil. We used it. It was incredible. Little garlic butter with the Vietnamese Cajun in it. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's funny that you talk about. I have been, and you guys probably know, some of you know this about me. I swear to God, it was almost 20 years ago, certainly 15 years ago. I'm like, Peruvian cuisine is on the rise. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It has taken 20 years. It's finally happening, but it's taken. But I think you're right. I think the international flair. I think it's almost like, and especially with the younger audience of restaurant goers, they're looking at, if you give them something, it's kind of a unique challenge. It's like, well, I'll try this African flavor. I've never had this before, or I'll try this Peruvian thing, because you never know. Maybe and I really see that, especially in that age group, they're much more adventurous to try something. They may not do it again, but I think that they're out there going, you give me something new, and I'll give it a shot.
Especially if it's something new in a format they're used to, right? A new burger with a new flavor, or a new omelet with a African flavor to it or something. They're willing to try that in a format that makes sense to them, versus like what Alex was saying, right? You can't just give them the authentic thing. You have to give them it in a format that they're going to go, yeah, I know what a burger is, but I'll try that flavor.
Yeah, and I think what Kevin said too is, I mean, we've been waiting for Peruvian, Filipino, Indian, all these sub cuisines to take over the world, right? East African for the past 15 years. And I think they'll never be more than what they are, but I do believe that adapting their flavor profiles, like you said, Karan, into innovation, and what Alex said, I think is the key, is how do you introduce those flavor profiles to make it unique and interesting for that younger generation who's quite adventurous. But at the same time, the younger generation is also, what's crazy, right? They're going to this place that their parents weren't ever there, is nostalgia. They're actually, if you do the research, they're looking at the different types of things I've never had, whether it's Wellington or Couliback or things from the 70s and early 80s that they never were able to participate in. So that's new for them, where it might be old for us. But back to your earlier question, Kevin, around innovation and what's working. So same thing, right? We've taken up to about 23% price in the past 4 years. So 25% more expensive on everything we're doing. We just got done with all of our regional meetings of spending time with 400 managers and chefs. And, number one is you got to deliver it in service now and value, right? The service equation has upped. And then what we're seeing, right, is I wrote a couple of quick notes, is, are there a couple small ideas that are worth a couple $1 million, right? We introduced a cheddar chive biscuit about 3 years ago to our quick service marketplace. We charged $3 for a homemade cheddar chive biscuit. We sold, $400,000 or $500,000 worth. That's going to all of our concepts. So we believe that these simple indulgences that people won't think about, they won't blink an eye about spending $3. But if you can sell a couple million of those, you got a big idea. Last year we added quarts of soup to our menu. So quarts of soup to go. You can't eat it there, but if you want to take a quart of soup to go, and it took off big time. And it's a six-figure idea. It's a 7-figure idea for us. And all we're doing is giving people more of what they won't make at home. So they're able to take it with them and then indulge in that favorite soup for the next few days, and said, I got my chicken tomatillo soup or chicken pot pie or shrimp bisque or lobster bisque or clam chowder. They're able to take that home. And then we give them either crostinis or bread to take with it. So that's been kind of like, thinking is, what are your core equities, right? What do you do well, and how can you sell more or move more of that? And then the other big idea that we're testing this year, which I think would be good, and we're starting it within our coffee shops, is our combos. So it's nothing more than a salad, a sandwich, a soup, and a chip at a discounted price to drive sales in our specialty coffee bars, which continue to increase. So we're seeing the millennials and Gen Zs really attracted to, a little bit more unique of an offering that doesn't require sit-down service to indulge in. But yeah, and then the desserts, right, is doubling down on the cookies, the brownies, the things that, again, rather than you're only going to get so many desserts that you can sell for 8, 10, 12 bucks. But we've had a lot of luck between cookies, brownies, lemon ricotta cookies, in reinvesting in that area of just trying to get the extra $3, $4 that someone is willing to, they can take it home. They put it in a bag and they're like, I'll take that home with me. So those are some of the few things we're doing. And then I don't know who it was talking about transactions, right? It's a game of transactions. How can you get people to come in more frequently? We had a lot of luck with brunch and wine Wednesdays last year. We're going to continue to invest in those and try to get customers to continue to come in more frequently and love us for something different than what they love us for all the time. So I love this conversation. This has really got my mind going about everything I'm learning from everyone. So
the conversation came up in a few different places about labor costs, but it was all kind of related to, of course, the server impact is huge. I mean, it's a really big, bottom line impact, for all of you. But let's talk about the kitchen side a little bit, labor in the kitchens. What have you guys done? Are you looking at changes in equipment? Are you looking at things you can do to save labor in the kitchen? I mean, let's talk about that for a minute if we can.
I can start real quick, Kevin, since I was just going, but I will say this is where we're having the biggest issue right now, because our servers and our specialty coffee and restaurant teams are pretty close together. Is now we have people who are baristas making more money than our top line cooks. And that's become a big issue for our company. People have been working on the line for 14, 16 years and slaving over the stove now are making less money than someone who's worked in a position for 6 months. In terms of efficiencies in the kitchen, all we've done, it's no real equipment innovation, except for the couple combi ovens that we've gotten in some of our older kitchens. It's been about consolidation of recipes where we can. It's how can we go from 400 recipes down to 360 and eliminate 4 or 5% of the complexity that we have. That's all we can do.
And we're a little bit different than most of you as well, but just sort of tacking onto that as well. Like we're just trying to just be more efficient in what we do and how we do it. Just be smarter about what we have. What do we need to bring in to help us? We had warmers in the front. We had warmers in the back. Well, how about putting warmers in the middle? And so now you've got doors on both sides. You don't have people running from the back to the front and front to the back for cookies. And you're able just to serve the guest a little bit, a little bit better. Problem for us and our labor, we're on or around college campuses. So guess who our consumer is? So they graduate. They graduate. Yes, we get new insomniacs every year, but it's hard when those good ones graduate and move on and move away from those college campuses. But, we're just continuing to cycle and continuing to do that, but it gets harder and harder every year. It just gets harder and harder.
Hey, Melanie, do you see a difference in the younger, so you're getting a senior goes away and you get a freshman come in. Is there a wholesale difference between them, or is it just a time of training?
I would say there's a little bit of a difference, but at the same time, it's the same mindset. Either you want to work or you don't. And, sometimes it just doesn't matter. And again, just like everybody else, there's some good ones, there's some not good ones. It's trying to weed those not so good ones out sooner rather than later. And it's something that we struggle with because we do have that kind of turnaround.
We've been working on some speed scratch stuff. So we work with a company and we create and have them duplicate our recipe like in a mother sauce. And then we are able to then turn that one sauce into 4 or 5 different things in different areas. So that has helped quite a bit from a complexity, and it's actually improved our consistency. The other thing, we've leveraged some technology from a scheduling standpoint and understand volume of business and volume of flow, productivity. We've always been on a pretty good job with that, but through hot schedules, there's some components there that we weren't really utilizing that has helped us better staff when we need them and to understand when we, are indexing too high in the labor. So those are 2 areas that we've been really had some success. Still a long way to go.
We're here. We've done, shelf life studies and yield studies, really diving in this part of the optimization to see if we are holding it the right amount of time and can we extend that, and if we can't, for quality. But quite frankly, our kitchens and our service teams are at pre-pandemic levels, so we're super proud about that. from an HR perspective, they've introduced a new program called Fast Fluency. And what they're doing now is really investing in those team members that speak Spanish, because that's predominantly our kitchens for a lot of us, and teaching them English so that they can grow with the brand and ideally grow into leadership. So a lot of them are sticking around, not going to taking other opportunities. So we're doing okay in that area right now. We're really happy about that. It's been doing well.
I love that, Terrence. I think that's totally awesome and so appropriate, this day and age, especially in regions of the country, right? Where we live in Florida, California, even Texas, New Mexico. But yeah, it's something that is really, really important.
We realized over the past 4 years that everything's been turned upside down, and it's really closing the gap on expertise, expectations, knowledge, and results, right? We realize that we have some long-term operators who are unbelievable and can deliver you any P&L results that you'd ever want. And then we have a lot of new operators in new markets who maybe don't have the history or backgrounds that we all have on this call, or even in our own operations. Those are the units we struggle with, and we can't make it by having half of our population veterans here and the rookies down here. So everything we're doing is we just reintroduce all of our systems and tools to kind of create a new level setting play field to bring everyone back up again. So we have to invest in them to be successful. And those are the individuals that need the most attention. So we can't do it with other operators. So that's where the chefs, managers, coffee people, that's where we're focusing our efforts to get our results this year.
Keith, just a follow-up too. I mean, you're in a really challenging industry too, right? Because traffic in the stores, I mean, we're just reading everything about Macy's and everywhere else. I mean, it's like, store traffic is just dropping like crazy. It's like, and so how do you
It is. Store traffic's down for us. Rack traffic is up, and .com is flat, a little bit negative. We were flat in transactions last year. So everything we're doing, we continue to be the emotional connection to our stores through food. So we're just going to keep doubling down on creating the best possible experiences, but it's a tough environment. For the first time, Kevin, I just got done speaking with the store manager here, that we shut down one restaurant in Tampa for 3 months, and store traffic declined 15% for 3 months because the restaurant wasn't there. And we reopened it, and their numbers went right back up. So it's a tough environment. Now, we don't get the credit we deserve, but we know that we have a job to do. Yeah, we realize that that's why we just have to deliver on the service experience and then upgrade our talent where we can. We've seen our turnover finally stop this year, which was good. Rather than the days last year of hiring 4 people to get 1, we're now hiring 1 for 1. So I think we're in a better spot to hopefully start to grow the transaction line a little bit. But if we're flat this year, I'll be happy. But yeah, the environment's tough.
Yeah. Steve, I'm sorry, you were going to say something before.
Well, I would have mirrored exactly what Keith said. It is all about getting all of your teams up to the performance that you were pre-pandemic. We all had such, you went 3.5, 4 years of just you were survival mode. Everything you had to do, we threw, the kitchen sink and everything. You had significant turnover in every part of the organization. And, like you said, you have some people that have been around that are just outstanding, but you got so many new people that just never learned the systems and procedures to be able to execute at that high level each and every day, and understanding the guest experience and that hospitality mentality. So just like them, we just had an entire company meeting. That is like our mission is seed all this and make sure that guest experience is where it needs to be. So for us, it's the exact same thing. And it's probably for most of us, it's that.
So I've got a question for you, Steve, and this go out to Terrence as well as Jason and and Vanessa. I think you're on here as well. But it's like when it comes to alcohol sales, when the economy and the confidence is down like this, does it increase or decrease?
It depends. I think if once again, alcohol sales is really about knowledge and speed of service, right? So that's what we're focused on. We're basically flat to last year with the goal of being up. And so, for us, it is really getting our servers comfortable because, through the whole transition through all the pandemic, you have a bunch of new servers that have no idea how to open a bottle of wine, let alone describe what alcohol is in this and, what's this flavor profile, or be able to ask a guest, well, what kind of vodka drink do you like? You like it on the balanced side? You like it on the sweet side? And then be able to make recommendations. And so for us, it's about education. I think alcohol in today's days are easy to sell if you know what you're doing.
Booze is king, man. We're crushing it. It's low hanging fruit. If you can for breakfast and brunch, it's a 2-drink day part, right? You're gonna get your coffee and your screwdriver, or you're gonna get your orange juice and your shot of Irish whiskey. So what we have to do, and you guys have been kind of talking about the whole time, is leverage technology. You have to make it really easy for these people. And if you can make the drinks, batch the drinks, so that you can pour, garnish, and go, if you can keep it within 2 or 3 steps, you win. And if you can keep the descriptions and pair them with food and communicate that to your guests will say, well, gosh, everybody else is doing a tequila sunrise with their huevos rancheros. So should I, right? And once the server gets the confidence, what I will also say, because it's fun listening to Dean and all of his statistics, in our larger cities, our first category cities, we are a clear 5% ahead of our secondary and tertiary cities. So cities like Nashville, blowing going. New Orleans, huge. You get some of the smaller cities, like in the Carolinas, probably in the 9 to 10% range, where you've got the Nashville is in the 20 to 22% range. So I would say that location has a lot to do with it, but getting the managers, I think was Steve's point, getting the managers to embrace it will totally change what you do and how it goes. So it's building from the managers down is really what it is.
Yeah, I think Jason hit on the head. I mean, for us, some of the things that we did introduce this past year were 2 new margaritas. And so I think for that, our learning was that, one, we need to be up on trends, and margarita is the leading alcohol spirit out there. And we only had one on our menu. And so we've introduced tequila in the menu. And so we're driving some of that sugar away and adding more alcohol for cocktails with a lot of color, simple, easy to execute, easy to batch, and kind of pour and go. And also, again, during COVID, we decided, simplify the kitchen, but also the bar. Before you come to the Olive Garden with these, $60, $80 bottles of wine, it was wine that our people didn't drink. And so we really drove, dialed into our guests, and we know where they shop at. And so we said, how about putting more of that on the menu and keeping bottles at a price that makes sense for our guests? So now you come to Olive Garden, you can come and find bottles for $25. And these are things that they're buying out of the grocery store. And we're able to do that because obviously our significant scale. So we can leverage those costs down a little bit for our guests. And so, much of Jason, we're winning. We're selling bottles left and right, cocktails left and right. It's not a night at Olive Garden. If you go there and you see many cocktails on often all the tables.
So, all right, let's move into LTOs. So, again, your projection for this year, do more, do less? Are you trying to experiment with throw some more things out there at different price points? I mean, what's going on with LTOs?
I'll jump back in on this one because I feel like every time everyone sees Olive Garden, they believe it's coming around the corner. And so I will say that, again, we're not against it, but our promise and plan is that we're going to keep it basic. What we're doing is absolutely winning for our guests. I think a lot of our teams think it's very mundane. I think often we do. It's a lot of innovation going on, but we have such a high bar to make it on our menu because when we drill down our menu, the things that are there are the things that our guests are consistently coming into Olive Garden for. And they tell us, we don't need the new biggest thing. We need you to do more of what you're doing and do it well. And so, again, if it doesn't elevate our brand equity, not at a deep discount or simple to execute, it won't even see the day of life, a day of life on the menu. We are testing a lot of things in different restaurants and getting a lot of feedback and kind of having those levers when needed. But yeah. And of course, from a product perspective, we're using a lot of our core ingredients. We're using things that we have and just thinking about it differently. A recent addition to the menu was our ravioli carbonara. Chicken and shrimp carbonara is one of our biggest selling entrees. And we just sat back and said, okay, what's selling well? We took a stuffed ravioli, put carbonara sauce on it, topped it with crispy chicken, and now it's, again, one of the best-selling items we have on our menu. So that kind of strategy for us is working right now.
We can't stop. right? Like all of us felt the pain when we paused all of this during COVID, and it hurt, and it was a really hard system to restart. So it's not a bad thing to just keep trying. Throw it up against the wall, see if it sticks, right? Like Terrence said, yeah, you could change the a little bit of the theory behind it, but you still need to have stuff coming out. Otherwise, the guest calls you out on it in 2 seconds.
Yeah, and eventually you're innovating for that one big idea, right? We were able to move a couple things to the menu this year that did well in LTOs last year. One on the beverage side, one on the food side. But then again, who doesn't love truffle fries? Even our chefs complained about how expensive the truffle shavings are. But I do believe, right, is what is the next 5, 10, 15, 20 million idea for your concept, right? And one thing we added to the menu 3 years ago and is finally taking off is just a celebratory, double chocolate brownie sundae, which sounds so simple. We put sprinkles on it and brandy cherry and make it fun and homemade hot fudge sauce. But it's finally catching this light of day because that's become our celebratory dessert. So I just think that, sometimes we think of innovation as a long, tedious process, but sometimes those answers, like Terrence was saying, might be right in front of your eyes. But I do believe that without new news and at least probing where the customer might be going, then, you stifle your long-term progress.
Yeah, you always have to test and push the boundaries of where you think your consumer will let you go, right? I live in the pizza world, and so sometimes it's hard to think beyond sausage and pepperoni. And how do you bring in some of those global flavors and just push it? And you'll know, right? They're like, well, that flopped. All right, so we can't go that far. So we have to bring it back a little bit. But you can't give up. You have to just keep trying things because something will click.
So, Karan, when are we going to try tavern style pizza from Papa Murphy's?
It's just the way you cut it.
Right.
And how thin do you get it?
How thin can you get it and cut it in squares? Yeah.
Yeah.
Stay the course on the cadence of LTOs, but be more conservative on how it's prepared from an operational standpoint.
One of the things that came up, over time here since the pandemic, or us recovering from the pandemic, was an issue with, a lot of people were saying, oh my God, we have so many brand new ideas and things that we want to, use and do, but we couldn't get the product to do it or whatever. Has that kind of balanced out now, or did those ideas go by the wayside because they were really a great idea a year and a half ago, but today they're not?
It is getting back to normal. It really is.
So, but that's good. So the production's back, so we have all that. But was there a back stock of ideas? I guess I'm just on this because I heard so much about people saying we have all these great ideas and we can't execute them because we can't get the product. So did that just balance out over time? Are we just in a place now where that's not the case anymore? You don't have the back stock of ideas, so now you can get the product, or is it something where you're looking at maybe ideas that sounded really good back then, but now because the world's changing so fast that maybe it was good 12 months ago and it's not today?
Yeah, I think for us, it's kind of balanced out. I think we keep a pantry of ideas and things that we can pull levers on. But as I talked to you about before, we're really in this like test and learn environment. So things that we may have not been able to test before because we couldn't get a product, we're now putting in our restaurants and seeing how guests are receiving, how teams are executing it, and just bringing it back and just kind of waiting for, like many of you said, you can't stop innovating. And so there's going to be a time where we get the call, we need something else. And so we've already done the pre-work. Now time changes and product becomes available and not. But that's kind of leaves our door open for how we decide to put things on the menu in the future. So
I just wanted to remind everybody, first of all, thanks to all of you for this awesome knowledge and sharing it with us. And then thanks to all the attendees that are on as well, all of our sponsors who make this possible and members that were on as well.